right. I'm happy. It doesn't look like I didn't mess that up to get it. So I've got some things I have to say to start this off. And as most people know now, I'm the co-hostess with the Moses, and the man that actually pedals this boat is getting ready to move. So welcome to Bass and Brews, your daily distraction from high-quality fishing podcast. All right, so enough with that. Here we are. Welcome, everybody. We got our special co-host tonight, Wild Bill Fishing fella Hookset Hoodlum, and then we got our special guest tonight, Ryan Lunch Money Lambert from Kayak Bass Nation. How y'all doing tonight, fellas?
Wide open, buddy. Got them stacked up. Let's go.
So as customary. Introductions for the podcast. We'll talk about our beers a little quick. I'm drinking in remembrance of my great friend Alex, who cannot be here tonight. I'm drinking a Cape Mate Brewing Double IPA Coastal Evacuation. I have no idea what it's going to taste like, but here we are. Bill,
what kind of beer is that?
It's Cape
Just
Mate.
Is it a local brewery or?
Bo, I'm in North Carolina. Ain't no Cape. This is from
they ain't got breweries in North Carolina.
Yeah, you know better than that. If we'd have a national tournament around here, some people know. But
I drive through Asheville all the time. There's a local brewery everywhere you shake a stick at down that city.
It's got more there than anywhere else in the country, I think.
I've been in a lot of them.
This is I'm sure you've been in the ones that don't exist either.
Well,
Bill, what you got?
So, in honor of Mr. Swamp Rat, I came with two of the finest carbohydrates and a gluten-free beverage by a small company called White Claw.
Microbrewery.
And I'm not allowed to swear, but Alex, you know what I'm thinking, and it's for you.
Well, there you go. Like I'm just on the leans, man. I'm a Yuengling addict. I can't stop. I'm sorry.
So funny story with Yuengling. I've been waiting to tell you this forever. Is the bar that I worked at in Chapel Hill when I was in college. We sold the first ever whole keg of Yuengling when it was able to come down to North Carolina. And so every year after that, Bill Yuengling would come hang out and drink beer.
Really?
Once a year.
Now that's an interesting story. That's a good one.
Yeah,
I like that.
All right, fellas, let's crack them open.
Is it a true story? Is there a Bill Yuengling?
I mean, 1, 3, 2, 1. All right, so Ryan, just tell us. You got an interesting story into fishing, kind of compared to, my granddaddy started taking me fishing, all this. So just tell us a quick story how you got into fishing and how you got into the kayak fishing.
I grew up, fishing with my grandpa. We got a couple little rivers here, tributaries to the Tennessee River, and we'd always go out, crappie fishing and catfishing, whatnot. I never really targeted bass. We'd go out there and throw rooster tails a lot, and I remember I caught it was probably 3.5 pounds. It seemed like a 5 or 6 pounder at the time, but on a rooster tail, I was like 13 or 14. I put that sucker in a cooler, took it back to where we were camping out, killed it just dead as a hammer. But it had a broken back, and I think that's why it was pushed so far up that little tributary. But I killed it. But I was super proud of that bass, and that was fun. And I had my daughter. She's 11 now. When she was about 3, I was like, I want to get something I can take her out on those little rivers, because we always had a John boat, and I was like, I want to take her out on that same water and kind of expose her to the same stuff. And I hate to give the man credit for anything, but I was watching TV, and up popped Chad Hoover, and he was fishing out of a kayak, and I was like, kayak fishing. And there was a store called Hook One in Nashville, and that was his title sponsor. And I was like, hell, I'm not that far from Nashville. I'm going to drive up there and look at some kayaks, because there wasn't really a whole lot in this area at all. Went and bought one, called my buddy Steve Owens, and I was like, Steve-O, you got to get a kayak, man. And he's like, what'd you get? And I was like, a Native Ultimate. So he finds one on Craigslist. We drive to Asheville, North Carolina to pick it up. We go to Logan's Roadhouse to have a couple beers and eat. He locks his keys in the car. So there we are in Asheville with his keys locked in the car at like 10 o'clock at night, kayak strapped on the roof. have to call a locksmith to come break us into Steve's car, and we started kayak fishing. And it started with crappie. We caught a couple bass on accident. I looked up the local kayak club in Chattanooga. It was like 15 or 20 guys, and I went and entered a tournament. I was like, hell, I caught a bass on a rattle trap, crappie fish. I don't know why the hell I was crappie fishing with a rattle trap, but anyway, I bought like an assorted box of soft plastics and one swim jig, and I thought I'm gonna go enter this bass tournament. And it was a blind draw. When you got there, everybody drew a partner, and I drew a guy.
I hate to interrupt, but this story is. The first time I heard this story, I laughed so hard because I can just imagine the look on your partner's face when this is going on.
Well, so the guy, Cameron, he fishes he fishes FLW stuff now. He actually did really well as a co-angler last year. Went and bought a bass boat and went all in on the FLW. But I draw this guy, and he knows what he's doing. Like, he's, he gives a shit about kayak fishing. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I've never bass fished before. This will be my first time out. And you can see like kind of the depression set in on his face. Like, I don't have a shot at this one. And I'm like, whatever. So I weightless hooked a crawdad, a Yum crawdad, and I was running it across the top of the grass, and a 20 comes up and just smokes it. And I'm like, yes, like, woo, I got this, baby. So I go over to tell him, I'm like, dude, like, check this out. I caught this. While I'm going over to tell him about the fish I caught, I YouTube how to throw a swim jig while I'm going over there. And I have like the Abu Garcia, like Walmart combo. What is it? The C series or whatever, the big, like, catfish looking bait caster.
That big white one.
I had that with straight braid on it. I tie the swim jig on with no trailer, and I'm doing what the YouTube video says while I'm telling Cameron the story about my fish, and I crack like an 18 and a half, and I'm like, oh yeah, like, this is it. We win the tournament. And I'm like, I call Steve-O. Steve-O he wasn't fishing bass tournaments at that time. I'm keeping him updated throughout the day. I'm like, dude, you have to come do this. You have to. Like, this is it right here. So about a year and a half later, Steve-O and I, we were like, we ought to start our own club here in Chattanooga. We think we can do it better. And that's a message to people. If you sit around and piss and moan about how somebody's doing something, don't just sit there and complain about it. Get off your butt and you make it better. Like, you can be the solution. We started this club, and we're 5 years into it now. We have tons of sponsors, tons of prizes. We got about a core group of 60 people that come out and fish with us. I mean, and Steve will tell you, for him especially, like, he kind of made that his baby. I mean, it's life-changing. The people that you get to help through this sport is awesome. I mean, catching fish is cool, winning money's cool, but the people you meet and how you kind of shape each other's lives, that's kind of the bigger message behind kayak fishing. Sorry, I went too deep on that one. My bad.
No, you didn't, because that's interesting. Obviously, we're not going to have you on and not talk about the Save JT tournament and what y'all did for Jason Broska's son on that. I mean, that is like how that didn't make ABC, whatever, the stuff that you think about, because what y'all did and what the kayak fishing community came together and did for that, it was amazing. And you see that. I mean, you see that from a local club level. You obviously see that from the national level. Bill and I see that from the Hookset side. We got a little group chat that we're always, and there's a lot of fun and poking and craziness that goes on. But when somebody comes up with an actual fishing question or some help, like, things get serious enough for us to give positive feedback. But that is, I've grown up in the country and out in sports in general. All my life played sports. The fishing community from the bass boat world is gotten better. But I used to be a non-boat angler in bass clubs, and I kind of got passed around like a stepchild, and it was rough. But the kayak community didn't like that, and what you said is exactly, I mean, that's the epitome of the kayak community.
I've fished as a co-angler. We've got a local bass boat club, and I fished it for a couple of years with my buddy in his boat, and it's so much more cutthroat. I mean, they don't care. Like you pull up and nobody's like, hey man, how you doing? What are you catching them all? Like it's like, man, what are you doing on this side of the lake? Like, I mean, you could be freaking 2 miles from, I saw you trying to cut it on my spot. Like, what are you even talking about? Like, I got a boat sitting in the garage right now. I have fished 0 bass boat tournaments out of it because I do not enjoy it. I don't enjoy it at all. I like going out in the boat and filling the live well full of fish and taking, some cool picture. But I mean, as far as the tournaments goes, it does not have, and maybe, if you're on the pro tour traveling with the same 100 guys or whatever, I'm sure there's some cool little groups and stuff. But, locally, like everybody comes up and they're just, it's a cutthroat kind of me game out there, and I don't really care for it too much.
Yeah, I was just talking to Joe from Old Glory today about co-angler, and he and I made a comment. So he calls, he's like, "Are you saying you want to be a co-angler? Is that what you want to do for next year?" And I'm thinking to myself, man, I would love to fill in, but there's no chance that I'm prioritizing bass boat tournaments over my kayak tour. Like I have so much more fun, and the camaraderie is there. Like it's a great time in the kayak community.
I'll tell you, there's a satisfying part to being a co-angler when you are on the back of the boat waxing ass like that. That's a time that I don't mind. Just, I mean, for your own little competition inside the boat, that part's cool. But if you get in the boat with somebody that's been tournament fishing for a long time, you won't get a cast. Like I've got a dude I fished with on Chickamauga. We'll be flipping docks. I won't even be able to see the dock. Like he will, like if I'm about to cast, he'll just hit the trolling motor, and I'm like, skirt. Like I can't even get in a cast. I'm just fishing the flat out in front of the docks. I don't even get to fish the good stuff.
You catfishing?
I still find a couple laying around out there.
Yes, it is different being in the boat side than the kayak side. But I think there's also and I don't want to get into the growth of the sport. There's people have talked about that to death, and there's so many different ways that we can go. But one thing Bill and I kind of talked about on our group chat the other day was like kayak fishing and the growth potential and where it goes to from a tournament level and recreational. And like Bill seems to think that kayak is going to reach the bass boat world. Am I right, Bill? Isn't that what you said the other day?
Yeah, it was. I kind of stole it from somebody. There was a guest on Jigs and Bigs that said
that was me. I said it is the Wild Wild West.
Oh right yeah, now. So it was. Yeah. So I stole it from you. And the more I thought about that comment about like this is the Wild West of fishing, these kayak bass tournaments now, like the Cowboys early days, and I'm thinking when they could figure out how to monetize it more, because obviously that's what it's about. I could see, if they can get the cameras going and all that, and for other people, I for sure see it blowing up.
And so, Ryan, this is why I wanted us three to get on here together, is because you have been a huge advocate for the anglers, promoting themselves, their self-branding.
You have to.
Yeah.
There's so much money left on the table, and I'm not trying to daddy anybody or tell them how they should do or what they should do, but right now, the talent level of the anglers, if you look at, say, the top 20, the top 25 anglers in this sport, the talent level that they have, people don't appreciate. They don't know it because there's maybe 6, maybe 7 that really put it out there, that are really like, hey, this is what we're doing, and keep. And I do this stuff because I like to do it, being funny and having a good time, like updating my story. And some people rag me about it all the time. You're fishing a tournament, blah, blah. People love seeing that. They love that emotional roller coaster. They love watching you, down in the dumps when you hadn't got a bite in 3 hours. They love that last minute cull. Like I have adults from my hometown that don't know anything about fishing, and they follow my story like religiously. Like I get messages like, are you catching anything? What are you doing? Are you on them? Like you hadn't updated in a while. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of stuff that pulls people in. You talk about non-endemic sponsors, which is where the money is. That's what's going to, that generates literally the platform, the consumer, for that justification of a non-endemic sponsor. You want people tuned into what you're doing. People have to share. You know, like, I mean, Russ Snyder's, Jody Queen, like, they have so much talent. BDH, like, so much talent. Edwin, I mean, we don't really know much about Edwin. I know him personally, but if Edwin shared the goofy shit that he does every day, he would be on top of the world. And that's what it takes. Like, you look at Christine, for instance, because she does have an advantage, obviously, because and I'm not saying on the water, I'm saying in general marketability. She's obviously much more of a, you know, her own little niche than a bunch of sweaty, hairy dudes. But I mean, she is capitalized. She is capitalized on the marketing part. Robert Field, even though he doesn't tournament fish, he put himself out there and he was really good at the marketing part. Honestly, Greg Blanchard, man, he should be getting, you know, checks. And I'll tell you a fun little fact. There's not companies that are just going to come up and knock on your door and be like, hey, man, you want 10 grand this year? You have to build your platform. You have to build your influence, and you have to go to them and say, listen, here's the product I've got. Here's what I want for it. That's how you do business. That's contract negotiation.
And so, you know, on this podcast, we want content creators, we want recreational anglers, bass boat guys, kayak competition anglers. Like we want to have everybody in here, but what you're talking about doesn't specifically fit just a tournament angler.
It's marketing.
Yeah, it's marketing, and you can be. Like Greg Blanchard fishes tournaments, and we know that. And
he's very good at tournaments.
Yes.
But that's not where Greg Blanchard is most successful.
Exactly. Yeah. He makes great content. He catches big fish. But his shit, like, look, YouTube videos of people fishing are boring, and people will tell you my unboxing videos get me more views than my fishing videos all the time. The people that doesn't matter, and Alex is going to kill me, but kayak catfishing, like that guy.
Hey, killing it, son. Killing it.
Why? Tell me why.
I don't know.
One reason.
Because he's a good old boy out there putting out the content, catching some catfish.
Entertaining.
Catches big fucking fish.
You're right.
He ain't catching little 5-pounders. He catches some of the biggest catfish you'll see on social media come from him on now almost a daily basis.
And that's the thing. And honestly, for me, that's kind of a hard pill to swallow too. Like like the Instagram stuff, the story stuff, I'm fine with that. But for me, to sit down and take 8 hours of tournament footage and edit it down to, you know, to 10 or 12 minutes, I'm not saying I don't have time to do it. I'm saying that's not a priority in the time that I do have. But I acknowledge that is definitely a big form of engagement on the media side, and that's something that, you know, everybody has goals for next year or whatever. That's one of my goals, and I've got a little project I want to launch this winter. And but I think people accepting the fact that social media plays a huge part in your value to a company. Do they give a shit if you catch a limit in every tournament? No, they really don't. They do give a shit who wants to keep up with you not catching a limit. Like they want engagement. They want people to listen to what you say. That's where the dollar value comes into play. It's not the hardware that you got hanging around your house.
So from a company standpoint, so when we started Hookset Hoodlums, it just started as an apparel company, right? So we didn't think about a pro staff or sponsoring anybody or anything like that. And then that's what happens. These guys you find these engaging accounts that people will tag you and stuff. And then we start following these accounts, and it's myself and 2 other guys that run Hookset. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. We started to think about it, because first thing you do is they get your attention, right? So from a company standpoint, this person's social media account gets our attention, and it's entertaining. Then you find out, are they the real deal? Are they authentic? Or are they bullshitting? And if they're authentic, now you're vetted at this point. You're like, okay, well, who cares about anything else? Now we just like this person. But it all starts with social media engagement, 100%. Because otherwise, how do you even know who these people are?
You don't.
Some of these guys up here in different organizations, MAKB or whatever, are, I think, I was looking at the names like Angler of the Year running today. I think Sean posted it, and I'm looking. I'm like, damn, some of these guys I'd put up against anybody in the country, and they don't. I remember like when Jig started, these podcasts started. They're like, why are you guys doing a podcast? Why are you on Instagram? That's marketing. So some of these guys are like phenomenal anglers, and they don't even think or consider that world of social media.
Well, not only that, we're the anglers we brought up are known nationally because they fish in national tournaments.
Sure, right.
But how many local anglers do we know that probably catch? They go out and they catch 20-inch fish, 6-7 pounders from a content creation standpoint all day long that are local that don't fish these national tournaments that are missing out on potential money by not promoting their stuff. And Ryan, to your point, I've got probably at this point 100+ hours of content of me fishing that I just don't want to sit. I do not want to sit down and do the work to put it out there. I just don't. And
I'll do it for a company. If somebody's like, hey, will you go shoot me this tarpon video, or will you shoot me a commercial for this shop? I'll do that. Like, that's a priority. I'm motivated.
Right.
But for my own self, I'm not selling it to myself. So I'm not like, hell, I'll give you $3,000, Lambert, if you'll get out here and edit your own shit. Like, maybe I need to do that. Maybe I need to start billing myself. But that's probably one of the reasons I'm not motivated, is that's just a waste of my time.
But my idol for creating content is Justin at Kayak Fishing, because his intro is like a 2010 YouTube intro, and he cuts, but he's not doing anything crazy.
Yeah, my buddy Eric Thomason fishes with him quite a bit. He actually came and fished Seminole with us. I got to meet the real deal kayak catfish.
Bro, why did Eric sell all his kayak stuff?
Who? Eric Thomason?
Wasn't that him that sold his kayak stuff?
Eric Thomason ain't sold his kayak stuff.
Moderator?
He's coming down now. Eric Thomason is coming down to he's coming down to TOC player. He ain't sold nothing.
I'm thinking about somebody else then. But anyway, but yeah, you get that content, and I think that's the holdup for a lot of people is the videotaping, the editing, the actual production of the content is I think one of the hardest parts to do. It's the most time consuming. And also, if you don't know what you're doing, it's going to look like shit. So
that is true. That's a learning curve, though, that I feel like scares a lot of people off. Like, your first few videos are going to be garbage. I promise. I have some if you need examples. But like, until you learn how to cut and when to cut and how to take the boring stuff out of a clip, and just look for the highlights, maybe throw in a transition or two. You don't have to do any magic, but matching, and this is what I learned when I did that Hobie tarpon video, matching the lighting, the beat to the action that's happening in the video. That's what takes it from, okay, here's another YouTube video, to like, people are in it. They can feel what's happening. And I think, I'm not saying that you have to have cinematic quality content, but engaging people, whether it's with your words or your actions or whatever, you have to hook them on something. You have to make them want to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah. The biggest thing for me is people, from a fishing standpoint, people want to see big fish, or they want to see you in pain.
I was going to say, they want to see something stupid happen. Stupid.
They want to see a hook in your face.
Get attacked by a swan, or flip your kayak when there was a shark near you. That's how some people gain fame.
Fall out with an alligator beside you. They want to see you in pain, or they want to see emotional or physical pain. They want to see you lose a fish and throw your shit in the water and have a meltdown, right? Or they want to see you catch big fish.
Yeah,
and that's, I think that's the line that we come into. But then you see somebody like Greg Blanchard that catches good fish. His quality's good, but you're talking about going back to non-endemic sponsors. He's sponsored by Sierra Nevada.
Hey, and those suckers, they will send you cases of beer. We had, they came to our house in Louisiana, literally like 2 cases of Sierra Nevada show up on our porch. And I'm like, yes, this is it right here. We made it.
Transitioning into the branding side, and let's Bill, you got it down, because Bill's one of these guys that produces these phenomenal videos. I mean, he really does put a lot of work into them. And they're good.
I'm not good at it.
Like, where do you see that from, Bill? Because you create the content and you're the one looking for some of these.
Well,
people
last year, like as far as YouTube, last year I didn't even know how to turn on the GoPro. I had no idea how to do it. So I definitely am not good at it, but I have fun doing it. That's why I do it. Plus, from a business standpoint, which I hate to say that because we don't, obviously, as you know, Paul, we don't ever really treat it like a business or official. You know that but you have to be on every avenue. So YouTube, you know, the TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, it's on everything. So I only do a few of those things. We have like Ken does the Instagram and stuff like that. But YouTube, if it's not, like you said, I have hundreds of hours I never put out. But if I'm having fun and I'm enjoying it, I'm like, I think this would be entertaining, and I'll put something out. And even like last week, I thought that was like with Joe and I thought it was a great video. It was a lot of ball breaking. It was funny. and then like Ramon, you guys had Ramon on the show. He texted me, he's like, dude, he's giving me tips because he's awesome at YouTube. He's like, talk to the camera, do this. I'm like, hey, I'm just putting it out. I don't know what I'm doing really, but I have fun doing it. That's it. But I mean, dude, if I'm watching anything, I'm watching YouTube now. I'm not watching much TV. I don't know about you guys, but
I honestly don't watch YouTube, and I think that's what's kept me from engaging in it for so long. If I have a question, like I couldn't get this damn screen to come on my laptop earlier, I YouTube stuff like that, but I'm never sitting here like, man, I'd really like to see another dude fish today. Like, that's never a thing that happens to me. I'm just like, all right, I guess we'll go catch a couple. Like, I've got to get in the mindset. I need to study more, I guess, from my own perspective.
But I will say this, and you brought up this point over the last few weeks when you caught that fish on the Susky, and your video you put out, this is why I can't be on live TV.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I just fucking stuck a big pig, whatever you're saying. Oh, yeah. You're on the phone with your buddy giving him a play-by-play.
Yeah, I was on the phone with Dylan Lowry. Dylan's listening. He's in the tournament listening to me catch this big-ass fish. And, like, I mean, but that's how I am all the time. Like, I posted that video the other day on Pickwick. Like, I am that way all the time. Like, I talk out loud about what's happening. And at Pickwick, there was this bass boat that pulled right up on my shit, and he was like 20 yards from me, and I'm like, you're about to catch it now, boy. I'm about to grill you. It's a monster. It's a freaking monster. Like, ha. Go on, son.
Yeah. But see, to me, that's regardless if you're catching fish, your interaction with that camera, people, you know, that is an entertaining aspect, because I'm similar. Like, I talk to myself a lot as well. So there's probably footage on there of me calling myself a dumbass and wrapping shit around a branch and over there, you know, throwing lures in the water because a fish jumped off or you know, shit like that. You know, to me, that's the emotional pain that people
that's what they want to see.
What I've started doing, I've started talking to that camera like it's a person in my boat, like it's another person. Like I'm telling them what I'm doing. I'm telling them what I'm targeting. And you'll see once I put these, you know, finished products out. But I'm not saying I want it to be educational. I don't want people to be like, I'm going to learn how to fish from Lambert. But I want you to pick up, like, you know, at least some of what my mindset is. Like, I may break off, you know, 10 fish, but I want you to understand, like, what I'm targeting, what I see through my eyes, and why I'm doing what I'm doing. I think, and it could be, like I said, could be a great learning experience, or it could be like a what not to do experience.
But you don't want to be educational, but that's 100% educational. You're educating.
I mean, but I don't want that to be my target audience. Right, like if you're sitting at home drinking a beer, I want you to be like, this is going to be hilarious. Put it on the TV. Like
you want some beer to come out their nose. You want
I want it to be entertaining, hilarious.
Don't forget the guy that was on as a co-angler YouTube, and how do I throw this swim jig though too. You know, there's an audience for everything.
Yeah,
you know?
there is. You're right.
So taking the self-branding as an individual angler, and now we move into from the kayak perspective, our national trails, and because you've done a lot of this here this year, is that on the water, moment by moment branding from the national trails, you know, from just an observer taking pictures and posting like you did with y'all state championship or at the whatever. I don't know if it's your state championship or your local club that you did, but then
oh yeah, that was the Bass Nation state championship in Tennessee. Yeah, me and Steve-O went out and did some on the water coverage. Yep.
The Bass, the BASS national championship.
Yeah, I was with Joe McElroy watching him freaking smoke them.
And you were giving updates on that. So, you know, you've been a big part of that. Again, you've been a big advocate of that. So we moved from the individual angler starting to promote themselves and brand themselves to now those national trails that have the reach promoting the angler. And we're not talking about a select 5 or 10, but we're talking, you know,
that's been a weak point,
right?
That's been a weak point, in my opinion, across the board. Hobie has a camera boat and they put out, and that's awesome. The TOC they put out, you know, they put out cameramen and they run around and try to hit the top 5 or 10. But I think that media portion is a wide open market, and I think that's something Jeff and I have talked about. That's the direction we want to take KBN. Like, I always want KBN to be, you know, the bullshit fun page, whatever. But as far as what we put out content-wise, right, I want there to be this platform of where we cover, you know, who's doing what in the industry. I want us to get to that point. And I was talking to your sponsors and negotiating things. I told that to Z-Man. I was like, yeah, I really think I want to get into more of the coverage part and the media part. And they're like, but you're still fishing tournaments. Like, not a question, like a statement. And I was like, right, I guess I am. Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I meant, sir. Yeah. But I mean, I think there's a huge potential for that. Could you imagine, you know, somebody live streaming a drone or something via Wi-Fi, or like I've got a Sony that has a Wi-Fi connection. If you could stream through something, live coverage, go around and hit the top 10 anglers, or, you know, in the area, roll up on somebody. You don't have to get super close, but have a person that's doing live commentary. You know, this is what they're set up on. This is what they're looking at. These are the quality of fish they've been catching, just to keep people engaged throughout the day. I think that's a market.
That Bassmaster Classic live is better than when it's edited 6 months later and they do it in like 3 hours. Now, when you're watching that live, that is. I mean, for me anyway, I'm like, oh, I'll put this on, and then you're glued. Yeah, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to call out of work and sit there and watch it live, because they're commentating, they're going from boat to boat, and that's what I meant with kayak. Once they could figure that all out,
it's so expensive. Signal boosters, hosting. I mean, honestly, we've dug into it. Like, it's so expensive to build a network like that. From an app to hosting, like it's a lot of dollars.
So in my, like, when I think of drawing, so now we're at the point we're bringing in viewership, and viewership brings in money from big sponsors, right? Goodyear and all these, right? So when I think about what was his name? Smallies Rule.
You talking about Smallies Rule up there at Champlain? Largies never rule. There's nobody that's out there like, man, I'm gonna catch some largemouth today.
But I'm in North Carolina, where I am. We ain't got no smallmouth, so Largies Rule.
That was it. Shit, I can't think of his name now. Yeah. He was in the Jackson, like sank it 2 or 3 times and still won the damn tournament.
Can you imagine?
No.
Can you imagine having live video coverage of him out there catching
bailing water out of his kayak, catching 20-inch smallmouth,
flipping that bitch over, getting in it, flipping it, dumping water out, and catching 20-inch smallmouth every other cast. And he said he could see him riding the waves. So like we
no, I can't imagine that.
But can you imagine that on live TV and what the aftermath of that is on the phone?
I want to. I want to. I want to figure out how to do it. And I mean, I know how to do it. You throw money at it. That's how you solve a lot of problems in life. Throw money at it and something's going to fix itself.
So on that, where do you think the sport has to go to be able to get to that list? Where does it have to go to be able to be not competitive, but closer to the professional bass boat fishing?
The anglers have to present that engagement. The anglers have to pull in the viewers. It can't be on the tournaments. You can't put the responsibility anywhere else. You have to have the anglers that are involved in this sport pulling in the viewers. To do that, you need exposure. So the best way to get exposure currently is through, a platform via, Hobie BOS, which, and honestly, I know everybody's like, oh, he's biased, but I'm not. I don't have an investment in Hobie. I don't care. I like AJ. We're friends. We all kind of discussed all this stuff as it was coming into fruition. But as far as like investment goes, I'm not invested in anything. Like, it's awesome that he's making it work. But the reason he's making it work is because Hobie promotes the angler so much. AJ's never up there with a microphone, me, you should do more for me. That is never, ever an angle that he takes on it. It's always about promoting whoever has accomplished something that day. I think as these organizations promote the people that are doing the big things, like Bass has such a huge network, magazines, TV. Why aren't they pushing these guys harder? Like, it shouldn't be a magazine article or an internet article on page 17 of Bassmaster.com. Who the hell goes to Bassmaster.com, to be honest with you? Like, they need to step up on their social media platforms, especially, and promote these anglers. Like, if you want success for the whole deal, promote the anglers. If the anglers have a bigger following, BASS has a bigger following. KBF has a bigger following. Hobie has a bigger following. That is your core demographic. That's your magnet. That is your people magnet, are the anglers.
Yeah, some of those anglers have outgrown bass, have outgrown their organizations that they fish for. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But on that too, like, the organization isn't going to promote old Jim Bob over here, who has no personality, who goes on a local podcast and like, you're like, this is probably the worst 30 fucking minutes I've ever spent in my entire life.
I mean, it happens. Sometimes you get some boring people on the other end of the mic.
And it does from a local level, and that's the thing is these national.
It goes to the national level, buddy. I mean, there's not a limit to being boring, but that's angler responsibility. I don't want to sound like a tournament judge. That's angler responsibility. Let your personality out. Loosen up. You don't have to drink, but do something. Do some push-ups. Do something to energize yourself. Chug a Monster. Like, come in and bring value. Do something.
But they can't promote somebody that doesn't have that Jacob Wheeler personality, or those folks like that. I mean, that's where we're going. Is you can't just and the old timers like Randy Blockett. If you listen to some of these folks and you listen to BTL, they talk about some of these anglers, and especially Uncle Frank Scalish on BTL talks about, in the old days, the ones that got paid the most from the sponsorships and got the most screen time and paper time were the winners.
Right.
And because when you won, that's the only way that you got into the magazine or you got on TV.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
No, Frank talks about that shit now. He's like, Dude, oh, Wild Bill, I forgot to tell you, I was just kidding about those texts earlier. We can cuss.
Oh, I knew we weren't praying on the end and beginning.
So,
oh boy.
So but yeah. So now you don't even. I mean, they talk about they talk about all these anglers and where they are on social media, and so those are kind of the faces of those tournaments. But again, Bass has been doing this for a long ass time. They have. Like, I think people want the kayak world to get to MLF and Bass next year when they've been doing it since the 70s.
So I've got a couple probably interesting takes on that. Bass has been doing it forever. So the kayak deal, I feel like, was not really on their radar. I feel like they saw the growth in kayak fishing and they're like, Bass is a money machine. Like, that's a fact. Like, that's and you can take that down to the federation level stuff, to the partner clubs and all that. Like, they're about making money. They want to rake in memberships. They want, they're cranking it out. Like, you see their pay scales for these bigger kayak events. And I don't want kayak anglers to go in with a mindset that things should be 100% payout. There's not. I mean, what is 100% payout? You don't go to work, and I don't get paid. I'm a sales rep. I don't get paid 100% on everything I sell. I get paid 1% on shit that I sell. Like, you have to know going in, like, where the value in things is. But I do feel like Bass has a lot more to give. Like, Bass, if you go to a Bass weigh-in, if you go to a Bass check-in, you shouldn't be driving around looking for a 10 by 12 piece of paper stapled to a freaking tree. It's Bassmaster shit. Like, shoot some fireworks, do something. Like, you shouldn't have to wonder what's going on there. Like, I think they leave a lot on the table as far as the show that they put on. I mean, this is supposed to be the biggest stage in fishing. Like, let's see it. Where's it at? There's not even a stage here. It's a picnic table. Come on.
We're going to get into that because we're going to get into the KBM post. We're going to get into that shortly. That's the next thing.
I'm glad you saved that to the end.
So, Bill, I don't know if you know, KBM put a post up about the most prestigious kayak championship you can win, and so we're going to talk about that. And
it's right here in case y'all are confused.
Yeah,
I brought it with me.
We're going to talk about it. I don't know where it's going to go, but it don't matter. But but bringing it back down to what we're talking about now was the branding, was not even the branding from the circuits, but I know y'all have put a lot of time and effort into looking into how to promote on the water fishing, live action. So that's when do we hit that, Ryan? When do you think that comes in? Like, KFL is doing it. So, but at what point?
So that brings up another point. There's and I like the hustle. I like the enthusiasm. I think there's a point of overselling things that I wish people would have learned from the early KBF days. Like, you can't overpromise and underdeliver, and that's one of the things. And KFL's growing, and I think the concept is there. I think they have to adjust their payouts. They absolutely have to. You can't say, we're only going to pay 2 teams at the end of the year. You drive your asses all over the country, spend thousands of dollars, and 2 teams might get to cover their own travel expenses. That is insane. Whose business plan is that?
You're traveling, 20 hours for the
and they have more teams. It's going to be more regionalized, but this is still money. People are still spending money. You're going and hitting these shops up for sponsorships. For what exposure? For 12 people watching a live feed throughout the day? That is not a value to a sponsor. If a sponsor is going to give you $5,000, they want that somehow, at least justifiably in their mind, as a return. And you can't, like, I know they did the Pride TV thing, and I heard insane numbers. Oh, 1 million viewers. There's not 1 million people. I don't even know what Pride TV is. There's not 1 million people that know what Pride TV is. That's the stuff that hurts the sport. Like, there is potential in the concept, but you can't oversell shit. And I know it's been done. KBBBBBT was the same way as overselling engagement. Like, you can't just run fake numbers. Like, that's not how it works. You can't oversell on stuff like that.
Not just fishing. A lot of businesses, a lot of companies will do that, and then in hopes that it'll catch up. Like, it's not the case.
You have to have deliverables. You have to have concrete shit, not like, well, if you click on my Facebook video from 9 months ago, it got 900 plays in 2 minutes. So I extrapolated that for the next 5 years, and I got 9 million views. Like, that's not how it works. That's not math, unfortunately.
But again, that's where all this comes into play, and this is where the math comes in, where 2 + 2 going to equal 4. Like, you got to have anglers that are going to brand and promote themselves. We're talking about the kayak world. People don't even need to think about bass right now. The anglers that promote themselves, they don't have to win. They just need to be out there. They need to be putting content out. It needs to be them being authentic. When shit happens and they flip their kayak and they lose all their shit, or they win a tournament. And then, these national trails need to be able to harness the power of the individual anglers throughout the top 10, but not only the top 10, but the ones that maybe had some adversity. They need to be able to target you to single in on those. It's the whole conglomeration of what we're talking about up to this point. It's an angler and it's the tournament scene.
And I like the live stream interaction type deal where you're watching people catch fish. I completely understand the selling point in that. You got to have good service. So whoever's on the water, you can't pick an angler that has 1 bar of service and their shit's choppy and cutting up. Same with the commentators. You can't have them, going down the highway with a window down, like commentating on stuff. Like, that's not acceptable either. Like, if you're going to do this, if you're really going to do this, build yourself a professional looking space to where it really appears like you are putting out a product. Like, you're not sitting in the backyard swatting mosquitoes, like trying to keep up with a tournament. Like, there's a lot of room for improvement, and I think there is definitely a market for what they're trying to do. If I could give any advice on that, it would be help out with the payout somehow, spread that around a little bit, and improve on the coverage part.
And people want to see people win money too. So the more money
people
involved,
do want to, and people want to win money too. Like, I love pissing money away, but I like to get some back. Like, if I just go out and spend $20,000 a year chasing these trails, that doesn't really do me a lot of good, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So on that, let's talk about the KBM little post, and let me pull it up and let's see where we are now. Because y'all put
a landslide. I know where we are.
Well, I know the landslide, and I know. All right, hold on. So right now, KBN Kayak Bass Nation on Facebook created a poll, and the poll is: it's championship season. What ranks as the most prestigious, air quotes, prestigious championship a kayak angler can win right now? And the choices are TOC Hobie BOS, Bass Nation Kayak Championship, All-American Kayak Classic, KBF National Championship, the 10, quote-unquote, the 12 to 15, KBF Trail Championship or State Championship. So right now, TOC has 206 votes, Bass Nation 40, All-American 31, KBF 8, the 10 8. So pretty much it comes. I mean, here I'll say this: I don't know much about the All-American because I think that's more of a Midwestern.
It's more of a regional deal, and I don't even know. And I talked to Jeff earlier. I was like, "That's great for those guys, but that's a regional thing. Like, you're not competing against everybody from from across the country that wanted to participate in it. I mean, that's
Right.
to me that shouldn't have been thrown. But I mean, he threw state championships in there. He's saying, what would you be the most proud to win? And I get that.
Well, I don't think prestigious, right? So we
Yeah.
think prestigious, and so I'll start it off. I chose bass because when I think of prestige, I think of the stage, I think of where you were, and now I'm coming to this too from only seeing it from Mark's side to in listening to his 100 interviews afterwards on podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, it was life-changing event for him. And so but it's the bass stage. And so prestige. Now,
and that was cool. I was there. I mean, I stayed 2 more days to watch it happen.
Yeah,
and it was a spectacle to see, for sure.
Oh yeah. But from a now, I have not fished national tournaments up to this point, but from being around the people that I'm around, I know, being connected with folks on social media, the TOC is the creme de la creme of it at this point. There's no question about that. And we also have the luxury of having a TOC champion on this podcast. So we are able to have an in-depth view, behind-the-scenes view of both of these. And I know what you chose, so I'm just curious because
for
you've
sure
been in this world. You've been in this world, and we're talking about prestige, right? What's the prestige? Because Mark said this was a life-changing event for him.
But what did it change? And I love Mark to death. I mean, he's my brother. It's a life-changing event, but what the hell did it change? What came out of it? There was some glitter and shit in the air and some smoke, but I mean, what did it change? It didn't change. It didn't change a lot other than getting to be, to have that blue trophy or whatever. And we had a great time there. Listen, I had a lot of friends in town. We rolled out the red carpet. You want to talk about a good time? Mark had a good time. I promise you that. But
the trophy had Miller Lights or Miller.
Oh yeah.
Or Miller Lights.
Oh, it was Miller Lights. That's all I had. I bought buckets and buckets. We had such a good time.
We know.
But comparing the two events, so the TOC we're going into will be my 3rd TOC. I went to the first one at Ouachita, qualified for it. The Hobie tournaments in general, before COVID, now they would rent out a conference room, and it was white tablecloths, and they'd have a dinner for you every night. I'm serious. Like every tournament, they'd have a dinner the night of registration. I mean, it was like they treat the anglers, like they are the ticket. Like because you registered for that tournament, you're important already. Whether you caught a fish before the first cast, they're treating you like somebody. So you get to the TOC, you go in, and they have catered meals every night. You have like this $600 gift bag that's full of, Gerber pliers and AFCO gear and, just good stuff that you'll actually use. And that's for the top 50. So you've busted your ass all year to get into that small margin. You fished against thousands to be in that top 5,000. I don't know, probably 1,500, 1,600 anglers throughout the course of the year, but you qualify to be in that small elite group. Well, then when you're in that elite group, you look around that room and there's 49 people that can kick your ass. Like there's not a slouch. Like somebody didn't sneak in there by accident, Like there wasn't a person that registered their dog and fished an online tournament in Arizona one time and qualified for it. Like these are people that went in on this deal and won a 2-day tournament. So they really had to fish their way in. I fished the classic out there on PK. I qualified through my state trail. So then there's all this trickle down stuff. It's not did you qualify through a bass event. I qualified through my state trail. You can qualify through certain other local clubs. You can qualify through a Bass Nation local club. There's all these exceptions. So that really expands the field to hundreds of people that have qualified for it. And the more people you add, the more watered down it gets, the less, that talent pool is. I'm not saying the same great anglers weren't in that field, but I'm saying if that waters down the overall average, you're having to compete with other factors than just him being good. Was he good? And 5 people slid in on his spot on tournament day because it's so crowded like that. You bring in a different dynamic. We went to the event at the Classic. They had us line up outside in like 105-degree heat to get our boards checked, okay? They don't give you your identifier when you get your board checked. No. You sit there and you drink and hang out with your buddies, and you're supposed to remember to go find someone in the crowd to get your identifier. What? Are you kidding? Guess who didn't? This guy. This guy right here, right? I didn't even get an identifier. It blew my mind. So that happened. There were a couple little judging things that happened that I didn't agree with, and I spoke to the people running the show, and we had our little back and forth. So then it comes down to the awards, right? So I'm pretty sure Mark's won. I know Mark or Joe McElroy have won. They're reviewing fish. Joe McElroy calls me, hey, they're reviewing my fish. I didn't have a better picture of this one. This is on awards day, like 2 days after the tournament. I'm like, oh, shit.
2 days later?
2 days later, yeah. Yeah, double checking all the fish. So then we get there, and they tell us which door to go in. They won't let us in that door. So they tell us to go to another door. So we run around this big-ass Coliseum to the other door, 100-degree heat, Texas, summer. Run around to the other door. They won't let us in. And I call Patrick Malone, love Patrick to death, and I'm like, Patrick, what the hell? I was like, I'm about to whoop this little dude's ass with this walkie-talkie right here. Somebody's going to jail. We got 4 minutes to get to the stage. What is going on right now? He comes out, finally gets them to let us in. We go down by the stage, and then the security guards come and kick us out from next to the stage. Like, you can't be here. I'm like, bro, like, there's no one else here. Why couldn't we be here? They move us way up to the side, okay? Well, then they realize, oh, shit, there's nobody down here by the stage. This isn't even going to look like anyone's here. So then they pull us right back down to where they just kicked us out of. And then we get to see, this 15-minute, like, hurry-up show. Like, people don't realize this behind-the-scenes stuff. And Tim Arthur pointed this out. He posts a picture of the Classic weigh-in where there's freaking 10,000 people in the stand. No, there's like 40 people in there. Like, seriously, like, you could hear a pin drop in that place until the awards started. But I'm like, this is the big stage. To me, sitting in that room with the top 50 people in this sport that year that qualified, to me, that's recognition. That, steel sharpens steel. Like, that's it right there, because those guys are like, not only do I know what you did to get here, but I know what you did to beat me and be up there. Like, that is why that is the elite championship to me, because number one, it's hard as hell to qualify, but number two, it's red carpet the whole way. Like, it's super professional. You're recognized. There's no hurry up. There's no, smoke and mirrors type deal. You get your time. You get your time in the spotlight. You get up there and say whatever you want to say, and they have camera coverage. It's on the outdoor channel. Like, it's the real deal. Bass didn't even have camera boats out there. They had still shot camera boats. They weren't recording anything. There was no TV component. There was no live component. Why? You have the ability. You have camera trucks. Why? Why are you not making more out of
right
this?
Down the road from where they're setting up for the damn.
So frustrating, man. So frustrating.
So when you describe like a shit show of this situation, for somebody to say it was life changing, if you win and that's your experience, that's what he's probably gauging it off of. Like,
no, so I mean, being on that stage and having that exposure, and Mark went to ICAST and got introduced to a bunch of people, and it's a big door opener. Now, as far as, do people just start throwing checks at you because you won a Bassmaster event that people didn't really even know was happening? That's a different story. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you, man. I won this thing. That shit's on TV. I did a bunch of interviews, whatever. But like, it didn't really create waves in my normal life, which
Well, you're on Bass and Brews, brother, so that's
yeah. I mean, that is life-changing in itself.
Yeah,
but I'm saying you can't depend on one big tournament win to affect your income.
Yeah.
That's on you. If you don't have the brand built, up front, but even in bass boats, man, if you don't have the brand that can support the recognition, you're not going to get shit out of it.
Well,
now, if you have the brand, look at G-Man, look at Randy Howe, look at Mike Iaconelli. When's the last time they went out and just wiped the floor with somebody? It's been a long damn time. I'll tell you.
The same thing when we were talking before about the branding. It's not just fishing. It's not just kayak fishing or bass boats. DC, Wheeler, Ike. These are characters that UFC. Conor McGregor ain't the best fighter at 155. Right. But everybody knows Conor McGregor. It's marketing. That's who makes the fucking money. You know?
If anybody is the blueprint since the Rolla Martins and the Bill Dances, if anyone is the blueprint to be a successful angler, but that's secondary to being a successful brand, it's Ike.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Dude, I've talked to Mike, Becky, and Charles pretty frequently. He's a marketing genius.
Dude.
Everybody on Bass and Brews is a big fan of Ike.
Marketing genius. I mean, seriously, love him or hate him, he is a marketing genius.
Absolutely.
Look, I love Ike is one of my fishing idols. Like I
Alex
loved him
is
back
and mine
in the day
too.
when people, when people hated him for breaking rods and acting the fool. I'm like, God, it's about fucking time somebody showed some emotion out here.
There's a guy named Jordan Marshall. If you can ever get a live feed into his boat, you will see rods snapped. He loses his mind. Eric Thomason calls it a Marshall meltdown. Marshall midday meltdown. He will just, wreck shit. He just loses it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Frequently.
Yeah. So Ryan, this is a question. Go ahead, Bill. What'd you have to say?
No, my bad. I said that's back to the authenticity. People want to see real.
That's right. People want to see pain. They want to see you be real, and they want to see you catch big fish. So, Ryan, 2022, you're in the Bassmaster National Championship.
No, I'm not.
You're in the TOC.
I'm done. I'm done with the bass stuff, man. I'm gonna be real with you.
Answer the fucking question, Ryan. Which one?
I'm simplifying it for you.
You want to win?
The TOC. I want to win the TOC as many times as I can in my life because that is the one that people worked for, busted their ass to get into, and they're the best in the country. That's why. That's it. Period.
And do you see Hobie BOS being the leader? They're the ones everybody's chasing. They are now. But 5 years from now, are they is Hobie and AJ, are they creating something that everybody else is chasing? Are they the bass of the kayak world?
Oh yeah. AJ, as long as AJ McWhorter has his hands in it, it will be the best.
Great.
Write that down. Put my name on that. If I'm ever wrong, feel free to call me out.
Well, it's being recorded, and it will be on the internet.
Yeah, so don't give a damn, son. You tweet me. You tweet me when that happens. When Hobie BOS is not the best at the hands of AJ McWhorter, feel free. You can. Justin Rotten's got my home address. You come out here and call me out right now.
I will send you a Tic Tac video.
Yes, send me. Yes, please make it cute.
But and so that's the thing is you hear. And this is where it comes down to. And I took the poll as most prestigious, and I guess everybody calls Mark the first BASS national championship.
He is, yeah.
Well, yeah, because people say last year didn't count.
It wasn't that. It was an open. It was like the KBF national championship. Right. It's an open.
So I took it as I looked at it from that level.
But being the first still doesn't, like, there was a first KBF national champion. Is that the most prestigious? No, because there were 360 of us there. Like, that's not, and
700.
You did beat 360 people, but what did we do to get there? Paid an entry fee? Some people got a tattoo? Shit. I mean, that doesn't make you great. Like that, you didn't do anything crazy to get there. It's like winning the Classic, winning the Bassmaster Classic. Is that a Northern Open? Is that a Southern Open? It's not. You have to bust your ass to get there. That's where prestige comes from. And people need to realize that it's not the name. The Bassmaster Classic is prestigious in the bass boat world. The Bassmaster Kayak Semi-Open, it doesn't have that level of prestige. It doesn't. I mean, and until they put more into it, they need to have a more stringent qualifying scale. And in my opinion, they need to invest more into media coverage into it. If you want to make it big, then do something about it.
Well, on that, I'm going to go change my vote.
I mean, seriously, like, yeah, I mean, that's what it is, man. That's the truth.
I think
that was a great thing about it. Yeah,
I changed my vote as well.
That was a great thing about being able to have this discussion with you. Is you've been a part of the Bassmaster side, but you are a TOC champion. On that side, I mean, you have the views of that. You know Mark, the guys that were in there. So like that's the whole thing about it. And when you think about from a kayak world, it's the grassroots. Everybody talks about the grassroots is what grows the sport. It's the grassroots. It's your club in Tennessee that y'all started that now is one that people look at the folks that are fishing in that. And, it's the ones here locally, it's the ones in the Northeast, it's the ones all over the country. Those produce the people that then go to fish in the TOC who are successful.
Yep.
And so, I think that's when we put everything we talked about together tonight, is that it starts at the local level, it grows into the regional, and then it goes into the national. But then there's so much more now to this than in the 90s, in the early 2000s with the old Red Man tournaments and the bass. You had to win to be known. Here, you don't have to win to be known, but all you have to do is win one to get to continue to grow into the tournament scene. But if you're branding yourself, now you're putting it both together, and that's what's going to get you that.
You have to win to be legit. You had to get the respect. Anybody can be a mouth. They can be a talking head. They can be a keyboard warrior. When you go out and kick ass in a live tournament, that's when you get the respect. That's it. That's what you gain from being a personality or an influencer or whatever you want to call it. You don't have the respect then on the tournament stage. Right. When you start cashing checks, you start doing, these live top 10 interviews and whatnot, that's when you get the respect because you did it. You didn't talk about it. You didn't coach somebody else. You went out and did it. That's where the clout comes from.
That's right. That's right. So let's transition real quick. Tell us about what you have coming up with your video productions. What can you tell us about your YouTube channel or the videos? What you have?
So I don't know. I came up with this little idea. Like, I do a lot of shit. A lot. I do duck hunting, deer hunting, elk hunting, obviously fishing, saltwater, freshwater. I go around and see my buddies. Like, I go down to Pensacola and fish with Brandon Barton and Matthew Van. I'll go to Miami and fish with Rob Will Valderay. Like, I'm always on the road doing stuff, and I'm like, so much crazy shit happens. Like, I mean, honestly, like, just insane stuff you wouldn't believe. Even in Nashville, hanging out with my friends, like, we had Darius Rucker walk in. We're hanging out one night. He walks in and starts on this Hootie and the Blowfish kick at this little smoke hole bar in Nashville. Like, so much cool shit happens, and I'm like, I got to start, like, nobody believes it. Like, I'm like, I got to start putting this stuff out there. I want to take people with me. I want to really document first person, the adventure, like from the travel to the hotels, to the flat tires, to the rental cars that don't show up, the Uber drivers that are, hilarious. Like, I want to document all this crazy stuff that I get into. And that's exactly what I'm doing. It's going to be, kind of diverse. It's going to be a little bit of everything, but that's what I'm going to launch this winter.
If I may,
we're going to get. Go ahead, Bill.
I was gonna say when I was looking at the Facebook, there's a picture, and I'm a fanboy out for a second of Aaron Lewis. What was
That's
Aaron
my homeboy.
Lewis? Come on.
I talk to Aaron every 3 or 4 days.
Oh, I was gonna tell you I was friends with him. Fuck it, never mind.
Yeah, no, I just talked to him. I just talked to him 2 days ago. But the local bar I hang out at, we had a mutual friend, and they were like, "Hey, will you take Aaron fishing?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I didn't know who Aaron was, so he calls, and I recognize his voice, and I was like, "Oh shit, like this is Aaron Lewis."
Yeah.
So we went to Hook One. He bought 2 kayaks and a kayak trailer, and then we went to Bass Pro, and he bought like $5,000 worth of tackle, and we started fishing together about 2 years ago. And since then, man, we talk all the time. We talk fishing, politics, bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just homeboys. He's a good dude.
I got into much bigger with when he started doing the country stuff and that. Yeah, he's very outspoken. He's the fucking real deal. Love that dude.
Yep, he's a good one. Huge supporter of that Save JT tournament, man. I hit him up and I was like, will you donate a couple concert tickets to auction off? And he's like, no. He's like, I'll donate 2 backstage meet and greet passes, dinner with me and you on the bus, and an autographed guitar. And I was like, welp, alrighty. We're in. We're in, buddy. Let's go.
Yep.
So on that too, on KBN, if anybody hasn't seen the updates, you know, y'all got some two big sponsors. What is, because KBN started as the cesspool, right? And people still embrace that part of it. Like
people do, because people want to hear what you want to say that you can't. Yeah.
It is. Yes, it's real. People
but the podcast we try to make separate. Like we try to separate church and state right there.
I love when y'all do cover some of the mainstream happenings in the first 5 or 10 minutes. But
I mean, we try to keep it updated, but not. You can't get too raw with it, or nobody's gonna love it anymore.
But y'all do a good job on the podcast keeping up with the tournament trails, right? That's what the podcast is for.
Yeah. Yep.
And then KBN, but they're one and the same, right? They're brother and sister.
The private group, is definitely tied to the podcast. The podcast is the public consumable version.
That's the truth. Only on KBN can you make a post on a fishing group on if Guns N' Roses is better than Alice in Chains and get over 200 comments.
KBN's like the backstage of kayak fishing. Like that's like it's not the shiny stuff. It's the cheaters. It's the bullshit. It's the mud slinging, calling people out. Like that's what KBN is. And I always want it to be that way, because if you don't have an open forum where people can bring stuff like that to light, so much gets brushed under the rug. There's so many things that people ignore that don't get addressed. If you call that shit out, people get paid, cheaters get punished, and everybody knows what's going on.
And obviously, a couple weeks ago in the Carolinas, we ran into that, and one organization pushed that side of it to KBN.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And, I agree with.
Bring them to the streets.
I mean, there's that the self-regulation in the kayak world that we see from, what was the guy's name in California that was the world-renowned big bass angler?
Oh, yeah, the old foul hooker.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was before the time of the internet nowadays, and people had no idea who he is. Now people on the West Coast knew who he was, but now we don't have to worry about people. Well, I say that every day somebody snuck in not too long ago. But anyway, we don't have to worry about people sneaking in. Y'all feel a very niche in that. But where is KBN in the next 2 or 3 years? Like, what does that look like for you and Jeff?
I don't know. I mean, we're going to keep KBN. We're trying to manage KBN a little bit more on the group. But the podcast, we want to keep doing exactly what we're doing. We want to give evergreen content. We want to continue to promote anglers across the board. I don't give a shit if I don't agree with whoever runs whatever organization. From the angler standpoint, you still accomplish something, and you still deserve a platform and a voice to 13,000, 14,000 people. Like you deserve to be heard and have your time in the spotlight. Tell us how you got started. Tell us how you won the tournament. Like, that's what you earned with that, and that's what we want to give people.
I think that's great too, because that's the educational aspect from a tournament angler. So somebody that's new, that's into kayak tournament angling, listening to your podcast, people share the information that they did. I mean, that's an educational aspect of the social media. You either catching big fish, you're educating. And so that's the educational aspect of it. And I do love that, how y'all promote the anglers in that, because you don't just have the first place winners. You'll have the first, second, third.
We try to mix it up. I mean, if there's two big tournaments, we'll try to pull in one of each and get their take on different bodies of water and approaches and things, how they break down maps. Like, we try to bring a knowledge aspect to it.
All right, so 2 years from now, where's Ryan Lambert in the kayak fishing world?
Banned. I don't know. I don't know, man.
As long as is in charge of Hobie, Ryan Lambert will be able to fish one professional circuit.
No way. No. AJ will put me out to pasture in a hurry.
Where are you fishing? Are you fishing professionally, or are you leading a charge into the growth and in the promotion of the sport?
I think, unfortunately, I have dug myself too deep into a hole to move too far out of where we're at. I'm going to keep fishing. I can't not compete. As long as there's people out there talking shit, I'll get out of bed, I'll spool up my rod, and I'll go shut some people up. Like, I love it. I love that part of it. And like I said earlier before we came on the show, I don't just wake up and go fishing on a Thursday because I don't have shit to do. Like, I'll prepare for these tournaments. I have a super packed schedule between my real job and this, but I love to compete. I do. So I'll be competing, and I'll be talking shit on a podcast somewhere.
Well, shit, great. We'll have you back. Alex is going to be gone for 11 months.
You'll be canceled by then, brother.
Well, yeah. This is probably the last fucking podcast I'll ever do right here.
Congratulations.
I would not be surprised if when this stops, it doesn't save.
Look, if I fuck that shit up, this bitch is recording. It says live record. I'm doing everything. If this doesn't record, I will quit.
Yeah, me too.
There you go.
So Ryan, we're gonna wrap this up. Bill, you got anything else, buddy?
No, dude, you're a cool ass dude. I'm glad this is the week I stepped in. You're the real deal, brother.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
No, you never know. You see these guys, you don't know. You start talking to them like, this guy's full of shit.
Nah.
I love it.
I try not to be that. I may not be liked by all, but I'm I try to be as real as I can anyway.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things My story doesn't matter because I've told it on the show a couple times, but like I had a 10-year hiatus from fishing. I just started kayak fishing in December of last year. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't really get into it. I got my Hobie in February of this year. So like I have a lot of fishing knowledge, but in the kayak world, this was all new to me. So being able, like you think about December, January is when I started listening to y'all's podcast and the Paddle and Fin Network and all these other ones. And so I listened to them and caught up and then went back and listened to before. But you think about the people that are the face of the kayak angling world. And we'll take it from like the Russ Snyders that don't have a huge social media presence to you and Jeff and some of these others at Greg that have the huge, like being able to have a conversation with somebody that's been in it, that's Tournament of Champions, that's one of the most well-known in the sport. Like everybody's approachable here.
That's something I don't ever want to lose personally. because I met one of the bigger names in the sport years back, and it was Drew Gregory. I'll go ahead and say it. But at the Kayak Bass Series, like 5 years ago, the first ever Kayak Bass Series, we had breakfast together. And, I'm brand new. I don't know shit about kayak fishing. So I'm picking his brain. I sent him a message on Facebook, and he never responded. Didn't respond for 5 years. And then sent me a message asking to come on the podcast on KBN to announce his new fantasy fishing thing. And I'm like, boy, how about that shit? And I swear, I still do it to this day. Anybody that messages me, anybody that comes up and talks to me, we're friends. We have something in common. I'm responding to you. I'm helping you. I'm answering your questions because I don't ever want to miss something like, I don't know what I could have learned 5 years ago that may have cut 2 years off, me advancing in the sport. You don't know who you're talking to, and you don't know what that's doing for somebody's life. Maybe somebody's in a real dark place. Maybe they've been through some stuff, and they just, that conversation that you have with them could just turn around their whole outlook. I don't ever want to move past something like that, thinking that I don't have time for it or it's an annoyance or whatever. So and I think that's a great lesson to take forward in life, period. People get put in front of you for a reason. We don't bump into each other by accident. Too many people on this earth.
Yeah. And look, people, fucking kayak bass fishing ain't easy. It is not easy. There's a lot that goes into it than just being in a kayak and throwing the lure out there. I mean, there's a lot of aspects of that. So having the opportunity to learn from somebody and somebody to share that information, that goes a long way with the growth of the sport, which kind of encompasses everything we're talking about. All right, Ryan, so we at the end of this podcast, and I'm going to try not to fuck this shit up because Alex does all this shit. Again, I'm just a pretty face and a half drunk mouth on this podcast.
All
so
right.
I'm going to try not to fuck this up.
Is that right?
So we have some questions, and now
God,
you're pretty famous in the kayak world, the fishing world, and so this could make or break your career moving forward. I'm just
it's been broke, player. Don't worry about that.
We matter of fact, one of our most recent guests just answered a question that was pretty astounding. So anyway, we're going to go through these. And we have the last one, and we'll close this out. So the first question, this is our lightning round, whatever that means. But
let's go.
Crocs or flip-flops?
Crocs.
My man, hell yeah.
4-wheel drive. Flip-flops will ruin your day in a heartbeat. You better lock them in 4-wheel drive. You don't want to be busting your ass out there on a boat ramp first thing.
Hey, see, exactly. You never slip in Crocs. Flip-flops, your ass can be slipping all over the damn place.
Amen.
I love it. Bill has lost more Crocs than any angler in the continental United States.
You bring it up. I almost lost one today. I donate them to the river quite often, but that's because I fuck up the 4-wheel drive thing. I just get carried away. But go ahead anyway.
All right.
Well, my dog bit the 4-wheel drive off of mine, so I've only got neutered Crocs. They're only neutered. All right. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Hell no.
Look, you can tell we got country motherfuckers on here.
Pineapple on pizza.
We
No.
two. All right. You spend more on a rod or a reel?
A reel. I threw a Berkeley lightning rod forever and busted ass with it. So you can't tell me that's what it is. But I've had a bunch of grinding ass 13 fishing piece of shit concept C's. I'm done. I'll spend money on a Shimano. I'm not gonna sit there and listen to rah, 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 and one raindrop falls and that bitch backlashes everywhere. I'm never doing it again. I'll spend money on a reel.
Look, y'all, I told you I had a 10-year hiatus before. I bought 2 new reels this year, Shimano's. I got the old Shimano Corrado green reels.
Ooh, that's it.
Ones everybody thinks are classics and collectibles.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking 3 of the 4 reels I fish with on a daily basis are those.
I like
it. They haven't been broken apart. They've only been greased and oiled. That's it.
I like it. I like
No
it.
problem. No problem. It's hard to beat them. It's hard to beat them because the pole has something to do with casting, but that reel. That's how
I'll sling one on a broomstick. I don't care, but I got to have something to reel it in on.
Exactly. The reel will do it. In a 3-hour session, you catching 5 2-pounders or 1 7-pounder.
That's right.
You
did what?
What do you got?
That's right. He's doing it all.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Um,
You catching 5 2s and 1 7? Which one do you want to catch? 5 2s or 1 7?
1 7. I want 1 7. I don't give a shit about a 2-pounder.
Motherfucker, I did not expect you to think about that. I thought that was going to be the quickest answer out of them.
I didn't know that was a question. I honestly thought you were just making a statement about the rod and reel conversation. I did not know. I didn't hear there was a period or a space. I just thought that rolled on into it.
Yeah.
Well, I am country, so a lot of
Right, and that's I was like, yeah, hell, 5 2s and 1 7. Don't give a shit about a rod. And I was like, yeah, man. I didn't know that was the question part. My bad.
5 2s 170.
Yeah. Just can you underline the next question? I don't want to miss it.
Jesus Christ! Look, I expect this kind of fuckery from all these Yankees that have been on this podcast, but we finally get one of the 3 Southerners on here.
Buddy.
Hey, hold on a minute. This guy hangs out with Aaron Lewis. We refer to us as Northern Rednecks from now on. Go ahead.
Oh boy.
All right, wacky rig or Texas rig? That's a question.
That's right.
What am I throwing it in?
It don't fucking matter.
It does. If I'm throwing it around grass, I want a wacky rig. But if I'm throwing it up in some brush and shit, I like a Texas rig.
You need a bite. You need 1 bite to win the tournament.
Wacky rig, wacky rig, wacky rig, wacky rig.
There we go. All right, there we go. Slow jams or hype music?
Hype music. I pull up, listen to some gangster ass shit on the way to tournaments. I put on 2000s hip hop, and I roll up with that shit blasting on tournament day. I swear. The rest of it is Tyler Childers and Coulter Wall and some redneck shit. But on tournament day, I gotta be ready. I mean, ready.
You know when Ryan Lambert is showing up to the ramp because it's 45 minutes after lunchtime and we're jamming on 2000 hardcore rap music.
Yes, correct. That's a fact.
All right. So this is the most important question of all this quasi-lightning round.
Okay.
This could fuck your career up for the rest of your life. You might get fired from selling your medical equipment.
I'm bulletproof.
With this. Top, listen to me. This is a question now. In case you think you Yankee again. The top 3 sandwich proteins.
Oh, yeah.
You choose. Time out.
Oh, shit. Come on.
Time out.
No.
Can you eat largemouth bass?
No. Hell no.
God damn it.
I eat crappie, son. That's what I eat.
All right. So, all right. We got that one. Alex, I hope you're fucking happy. He said no.
All right.
Yes. Top 3 sandwich proteins.
Ham, roast beef, and turkey.
You know what? Nothing surprising. I love it, but you spit them out like that. We had our last guest said spinach.
I don't trust people. I don't trust people like that, to be honest with you.
Delirious said cheese.
What? All right. You got me.
All right. Well, that's pretty much it. Wild Bill, you got anything, brother?
No, nothing at all, man. That was fun.
Nope.
All right, Ryan. So, kind of same thing as the other podcast. You got anybody you want to thank? Anybody you want to shout out?
I want to thank my friends, the Kayak Bass Nation, Z-Man, Plano. A huge thank you to the Dugout Bait and Tackle and Jamie Koza, because I forgot to thank him in the TOC interview at Pickwick, or the Hobie BOS interview. He got pissed at me. Revo Sunglasses, obviously, for coming on with us. Honestly, they're investing big on fishing, and we are super, super happy to be a part of it. I thank AJ and the crew for running the BOS series, Dwayne for all he's done with bass, and even the Godfather for founding kayak fishing to give us the platform that we have.
All right, where can we find you on the social medias?
Ryan Parker Lambert on Instagram. I think Ryan Parker Lambert on YouTube as well, and then one of the 5 Ryan Lamberts on Facebook.
Well, we got to know where the YouTube is to watch all this video content.
You'll see it. Don't worry. I'll drop a link or two.
All right, y'all don't sign off after we end this. We're gonna hop on real quick and do some more talking. But thank y'all.
I got a pack for elk hunt. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah. All right, fellas, we appreciate it. We'll see y'all later. Take care.
Later.